Welcome. I'm Krista Gibson, the host of Keeping It Real, and I'm also the publisher of NewSpiritJournal.com. Both my online publication and this show are devoted to practical spirituality, ways that you can learn how to implement your spirituality and your spiritual practices on an everyday level, not just when you're on the yoga mat or at temple or at church. So my guest today is a woman by the name of Alison Stanton, and she is, let's see if I can get this right, she is a Reverend of Clairvoyant Reading and Healing from Boulder, Colorado. And she works with both animals and humans and helps them learn to communicate better with one another. And she also works with healing. She works with St. Francis. And so she's going to join us now and talk to us some about how she recognized this gift in herself and also share some tips and ideas about ways that all of us can communicate more with the animals in our lives. So join me now as we visit with Alison. Hi, Alison, and welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us about your psychic abilities and your work with animals and your healing work and kind of how it all started, and fill us in.
Well, my whole life I've had several autoimmune diseases, and the medical profession doesn't really have a lot of solutions for you. So I went to more and more alternative healers my whole life, and I discovered energy healing was actually one of the main answers, really saved my life several times. But as you know, you have to pay out of pocket for all those things. So I saw this class that was called Self-Healing, and I'm like, I'm all for that. And it coincided with a parenting crisis I had where my very powerful trans-medium son was having trouble being 14, and as those sensitive souls often are. And so in order to support I just needed a meditation class. Mm-hmm. And when I went into the class, I discovered that I had a lot of natural abilities. Mm-hmm. And that was actually part of the reasons why I do have so many autoimmune conditions, and because I am a sensitive soul. Mm-hmm. So I started studying 6 years ago at the Boulder Psychic Institute, and I've also taken classes at the Psychic Horizon Center in Boulder as well. And I've studied animal communications, and as part of that program, my whole life I've been talking to animals, specifically dogs. I'm very much a dog person.
Are you?
I work at the Boulder Humane Society as an adoption specialist, and I fostered over 100 dogs and puppies at my house.
Wow!
And I'm currently a dog sitter. I have about over 100 clients who come and stay at my house and get spoiled.
Right.
And as part of my training, I also learned energy healing, and I have started my own, sort of stepped away from just the training that I've received into developing more healing techniques for animals by myself with my own guides and other kind of agendas of producing products and things like that would help people access animal communications.
Now, when you say healing, let's talk specifically with animals. Are you talking behavior healing? Are you talking physical healing? Both?
Both, yes. Okay. Anything. I work a lot with animals with separation anxiety, talking to them about what's going on, or if there's behavior problems, aggression problems. I'm because of my own medical issues, I'm very good at seeing their medical problems and helping them. I have a couple healers I work with who come in, and I am very much in touch with St. Francis of Assisi, who's the patron saint of animals, who's ready at any time to plug into our hands and offer healing to the animals on the planet. And that I do a lot. And the animals are really receptive because they don't have a lot of religious programming that tells them that they can't receive that kind of energy. Right. They read energy all the time. They don't read books and things. Right. They read energy. So it's really easy for them to access healing and access a communication session.
So I know some of our viewers will want to know this, but so let's say you were talking to a dog. Let's say, you don't know this dog. One of my dogs. Let's say I called you for a session. What does it feel like when you're actually hearing from the animal? I mean, do you hear words? Do you hear pictures? What does it feel like?
Yeah. Animals communicate in pictures. It's telepathic communication as well as they communicate feelings as well. So the part of the study is just to study kind of what pictures they show you and what do those mean, and how can you show them then a picture that would mean what you're trying to communicate. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if I say hello to your dog, I immediately get sort of an idea of what they're like. Mm-hmm. They immediately present themselves as how they see themselves. And so I'll say, oh, what a sweetheart, or boy, that's a rowdy little dog. And the person will be like, yeah, they are a little rowdy dog. And that's when I'd be like, oh yeah, now I know I'm seeing the right dog.
Right.
Or cat or horse or whatever I read. What's really cool is that animals have a lot more going on than we know. We might say, oh, my cat has this behavior of peeing in the house, and you think it might be physical or like just being naughty or obstinate, but it actually turns out it's some kind of past life you guys are working out together, and it's coming to a head, and it actually has a lot to do with your own work. And so talking to the cat about that and helping the person move through that energy as well can immediately make the cat stop being in the house.
Well, I would think that the work that you do, the humans got to be involved. In other words, you can't, if it's an animal who lives in the house or a pet, companion animal, the owner's energies and issues and so on have got to work hand in glove, so that you actually work with the people as well as with the animal. That's what I would assume.
And it's and it's true. Of course, that's true. And it's a beautiful way for the human to look very gently at themselves, because the animal loves them to the core. So if they've gotten to the point where no, I'm not talking, it's really the animal, and I'm voicing it for them. And the animal says, hey, I wish mommy would, do X, Y, and Z. Or here's what work I'm doing with mommy on this particular issue, and helping her see, for instance, that the world isn't as bad as it is, or something like that. It's easier for a human to hear that from their pet.
Right.
Because our pets, they see us to the core of who we are.
Right.
They don't get our valence.
They don't have those filters.
No, they don't filters. See what you're wearing and what your education is, or any of the other things you're trying to show to other humans.
Now, I know that some people think that animals who live in the house with people, household animals, that they either have been human before or they're getting ready to be human. What's your opinion on that? Is that something that you've experienced?
I've never experienced an animal going back to be a human. I do know that there are animals who are going towards being a human. You meet some of those in domestic animals especially. In fact, I would say probably exclusively domestic animals, because they are actually there to study human behavior.
Right.
The dog I have now is, I'm sure, going to be human very soon. He is really mind-blowing.
Right. Well, I know I talk to mine, and I'll tell them things like, you should appreciate, like when I'm feeding them, that I'm providing this feed, because when you're going to be a human, you're going to have a job, you're going to have to make money, you're going to have to do all these things. So, you might want to stay a dog a little longer, because you got it really pretty good.
They're like, mock up 10 more lifetimes of the dog.
That's right. It's not such a bad thing. For sure.
Well, they're doing tremendous things. This is the one thing I feel very strongly about, and why I'm so motivated to teach animal communications, because I want more and more people to know that animals are actually talking. That they are. Imagine if you were running around talking all the time and nobody was ever hearing you. It's very upsetting to me, and very validating for the animal when I do an animal reading and I tell them, no, I can talk to you. I understand what you're saying, and you can talk to me. And within like 2 minutes of a reading, sometimes they jump on my lap or lie on my feet. They're super grateful. And it's always a pleasure to meet people who have like amazing communication with their own animal.
Right.
That's so awesome to see.
Yeah, and I think people who have been around animals a long time, or have had numerous pets over the years, I think we know we can talk to them. I think it's just we aren't always totally clued into what they're saying back. We tend to try to make it too much a one-way street. We need to be quiet sometimes and really pay more attention to what they're trying to show us.
Well, we always have our agenda, whether or not that's, it's coming from a place of love. For instance, like a veterinarian might be like, well, it needs this and that. Right. And the animal's like, well, it's not actually my ear, it's my foot.
Right.
And it's my frustration working sometimes around these kind of professionals because I have to pretend like I have to make something up. Mm-hmm. When the animal tells me, it's really my foot.
Right.
And I go, you might want to look at his foot,
Yeah,
because they don't believe it, and they have their own agenda.
Right, of course. Now, you mentioned St. Francis. Tell me more about the healing that you do with St. Francis. You said something about your hands and St. Francis.
Yeah, so St. Francis, patron saint of animals. Right. He's an Italian Franciscan monk. He's founded the order. And he is kind of just hanging out over there waiting for you to ask him to plug into your hands and offer the animal a healing. And it's wonderful to watch. It's very educational to watch because the things that St. Francis does, or any other healing that you might invite to help heal the animal, would do things that you wouldn't necessarily do as a trained healer or mm-hmm. as just the owner of the animal, the mm-hmm. guardian of the animal. And there are opportunities in, I think it's certain Catholic churches, they have October 4th, I think it is, yes. is St. Francis Day, yeah. Yes. And so they'll have a healing of the animals and people will bring their animals to church. It's very mm-hmm. sweet.
Yes.
I try to approach it a little bit more neutral, a little, more from St. Francis's motivation as a spirit as opposed to as a monk.
Right. Yeah, necessarily associated with any one religion. Yeah,
exactly.
They take it to a higher level than just being mired in one particular one. Now, where do wild animals fit into all of this? Do you communicate with them? And is it easier, harder?
Yeah. It's harder to communicate with one particular wild animal because they are very much focused on their own survival.
Right.
They're constantly trying, and in their procreation. So, they're thinking about where their next meal comes from.
Right.
They have not chosen to be animals that want to live with humans so they can learn about humans right. and have that kind of kickback life where somebody feeds them out of a can. They still have some kind of other agenda that they are very much focused on. Mm-hmm. So if you come upon them in the woods and you want to talk to them, well, sometimes you're lucky and they're just resting and they want to talk, or they kind of have the spiritual ability to connect that way. But generally, I will ask for a diplomat of that animal, that species to come to me, and that is every species has a council that's in charge of the decisions that are made for that species, and they have identified diplomats who can talk to different species, humans included. So that animal will come down to you, and when you call it down to talk to it, it'll be able to. It has more knowledge about how humans communicate. Mm-hmm. It's been to its own psychic school up there on the Astro.
I always feel.
I recently saw a moose in the wild, and it was amazing that I saw it at all because he was brown in brown bushes, and it really, truly was amazing that I saw him at all. And I asked him if there was any questions he had, and he asked me, "What's all about? What's with the fire and the smoke?" Because he lived near a camping area, and he wanted to know why what he would consider a dangerous thing was humans were always playing with that.
Well, I know because what I just thought of was I always feel so bad for the animals, like, the wildfires that are going on right now in California. And I always feel so sorry for the wild animals. And I think, gosh, how afraid they must be and how panicked, and they try to run. And, I guess I humanize them too much, but I just, always send them love and angels and light and just say, sorry, that this is happening to your home, but your home is burning up. Yeah.
Yeah. And some animals are stewards of the earth. Whales and dolphins are the obvious, but there's also other animals like coyotes. I even find rabbits are pretty tuned in to what's going on and tend to be in charge of the community a lot more than we give them credit for. Coyotes definitely, and since I live in Boulder, Colorado, I observe them a lot and talk to them a lot. And they actually are kind of hard to talk to because they live on a different level. They don't really see you even, you know? It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
They have their own agenda, that's for sure. Coyotes do.
Yeah. Very spiritual. Very spiritual.
So tell me about the work that you do in classes and workshops, and I think you have one coming up. Because kind of fill me in on all of that.
Yeah. Well, I live in Boulder, Colorado, but I come 2 or 3 times a year to Seattle and teach animal communication courses at the Psychic Horizon Center, Psychic Awareness Center, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Psychic Awakening
Center. Sorry,
that's okay, you'll get it.
Same kind of name. Psychic Awakening Center. Sorry, and you can go to their website to see on October 20th weekend, 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. We're having St. Francis blessings. There's sessions for animal readings. There's a course in how to talk to domestic animals and a class in how to talk to wild animals, and then also a field trip to the zoo.
Oh, fun!
Which is so much fun.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
It blows you away. And people think that animals in the zoo are sad and they don't like to be there, but a lot of them are actually there for a really reason that you could not predict.
Interesting, because that's always my prejudice with zoos is, we just shouldn't do that. It's not fair to the animals, but you're saying that isn't how they necessarily feel.
No, they don't necessarily, because animals, most of them live shorter lives, and so they can reincarnate very quickly.
Right.
And so they may choose a life where they're just like chilling out and getting their food fed to them.
Right,
and
that's
safe,
true.
and they don't have any predators.
Right.
Like, that's a sweet situation.
That's true.
I was in the Denver Zoo, and a monkey said, we asked, do you want a healing? And she said, no, I think you should heal yourself. You look like you have more fear than I do.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, you're right. I am
right.
out here in the wild world, and you're inside in that little safe place. And it was a pretty sweet enclosure. It was a nice, it wasn't like you go to some zoos that are different than others. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are really quite nice. I mean, they spend a lot of money making it as close to their natural habitat as you can. And you're right, they don't have to hunt, and they don't have to worry about predators in general. And so I can see where, as long as they get enough exercise and the right kind of food, that it could be kind of cush.
Well, and just like humans, you might mock up a life where it's like really, really difficult, and you're
right.
starving, and you die young, and you have a really horrible life.
Right.
And then the next life, you're like, rich.
Yeah.
Live in America, and
Yeah, whatever you want comes to you. It's easy.
Right. The other thing is, remember, the Council of the Species will assign animals different tasks for their lives, and those animals might be information gatherers. At the Seattle Zoo, there's a tiger who actually is there to heal the other animals.
Interesting.
And when we were there last time, we were talking to one of the, did I say tiger? It was a lion.
Uh-huh.
We were talking to the tiger, who was very invalidated, has a lot of invalidation, and doesn't really know what it's like to be a tiger. And while we were telling him what it's like to be a tiger and how much we love tigers, we could hear the lion going, "Oh my goodness, thank you for coming here and healing him. I've been healing that tiger for years successfully."
That's
so
awesome.
We went over and talked to the tiger, and it was pretty, sorry, I keep saying tiger, the lion, and it was pretty, one of the giraffes at the zoo told us that she was a psychic too.
Oh, how cool.
She was so excited. I'm a psychic too. I'm like psychic here.
Well, it sounds like
we want to talk to the baby. We don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild. It sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like a great outing. And, and
one thing I love about animal communications is I have done hundreds of readings and hundreds of conversations with animals, and I have never, ever, every single one of them, I've learned something new, something amazingly new.
Yeah, that each is different and unique and has a different life experience and can share something unique with you.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, now what if people want to get in touch?
Dimensions a lot more, too. I mean, they move between dimensions more than humans do.
Right.
So you can learn a lot more about dragons and fairies and things like that.
Fun things, yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? What's your website and what's the best way to reach you?
Well, I have a website, AlisonStanton.co. It's not .com, it's .co. And on there is a way to get in touch with me, my phone number and a email, and you can check out some of the other services I offer, do weddings.
And your other events are in there as well, because we do have people who watch these shows who either aren't in Seattle or it may be after the other event has happened. So on your website, do you usually have your events, upcoming events
Yes,
posted?
and I work
Okay.
at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo
Oh, good.
fairs. So far, just in the Colorado area, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be posted there as well. And
Good.
also how to book multiple readings. Sometimes people want to have more than one reading, and there is a
Right.
discount. So,
Perfect. Well, hey, thank you
yeah.
so much for stopping by today. I really do appreciate it. And you shared some really interesting thoughts. And I'm sure our viewers are going to enjoy. So I wish you the best with your events.
Thank you very much for your time.
You bet. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye now. You know, this is one of the things that I love about doing this show. I mean, who knew that a giraffe would say that it's psychic or that a lion is healing a tiger at the zoo? Really interesting things. And, you know, you can say, well, are these figments of somebody's imagination? I don't think they are. I think there's this whole side to life that most of us don't think about and we don't see. And then when you talk to someone like Alison, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is really how it is. So anyway, if you aren't able to go to her workshop, certainly go to her website, check it out, and find out more about what she does. And I wish you the best, and thank you for watching today. And do remember that whatever you're doing in your life, keep it real.